Madam, in September 2012, the Ministry of Home Affairs embarked on a review of our liquor control measures. The review was prompted by several factors. The Ministry had received considerable feedback from the public on law and order concerns and disamenities arising from liquor consumption and drunkenness in public places. These concerns were echoed in media reports, with businesses and members of the public voicing concerns about youths congregating and getting inebriated in public areas, creating noise and causing other disturbances. Several members of this House had also raised similar concerns on behalf of their constituents. Residents in the heartlands were worried about people gathering and consuming liquor along pavements, at HDB void decks, parks, playgrounds, and other community places and spaces. These individuals would often disrupt the peace and leave a trail of broken bottles and other litter. Sometimes the drinking led to fights and disorderly conduct, compounding the sense of insecurity. These problems were exacerbated by the easy availability of takeaway liquor from nearby retail shops. Separately, the police have also been monitoring incidents associated with the consumption of liquor. Last year, there were 47 cases of rioting linked to the consumption of liquor. And rioting here is defined in the law as groups of 5 or more persons engaged in fights and inflicting violence on others. In addition, there were about 100 cases of affray, meaning fewer than 5, but also involved in such public fights, and there's a link to alcohol consumption. And there were 115 cases of serious hurt, which were also related to the consumption of liquor. These serious hurt cases include stabbing, cutting using dangerous weapons, and inflicting severe bodily pain on victims. In other words, if I can put it a different way, on average, there was 1 rioting incident and 2 cases of serious hurt each week that was related to alcohol consumption. And the trend has been on the rise. And these incidents occurred across the island, with 9 out of 10 occurring after 10:30 p.m. And lest there be any misconception, this is not attributable to any one nationality, and indeed, I would say that the statistics speak for themselves, but generally foreigners are not disproportionately represented in these stats. Singaporeans and locals are also implicated in many of these incidents. Also, over the last 3 years, there was an average of 530 cases of persons found to be drunk and incapable in public places. And these numbers do not take into account the many cases of noise and other disturbances arising from liquor consumption, which often go unreported. Neither do they capture fully the inconveniences and sense of insecurity that affected residents have had to live with. Hence, there were widespread calls and compelling needs on the ground for the Ministry of Home Affairs to consider proactive measures to restrict the supply and consumption of liquor in public places in order to avert the significant disamenities caused to residents and mitigate the risks to law and order. Madam, this bill is the culmination of a deliberate 2-year process that has been informed by the police's operational assessment of the ground, widespread feedback and consultation, the experience of other jurisdictions, and indeed our own experience implementing similar measures in Little India. Its provisions address the demand and supply aspects in order to foster greater responsibility in the sale and consumption of alcohol. We sought a set of measures that is clear and consistent, easy to understand and comply with, and that causes minimal disruption to the usual legitimate activities of residents. Any curbs on the retail sales of liquor also had to take into account the impact on businesses. The bill also provides for a range of enforcement powers that enables the police to take more calibrated action in circumstances that might pose a risk to public order. This measured and holistic approach is necessary, and it entails important trade-offs, because what this bill proposes, in effect, is a transition from the current regime, which has very few restrictions, to one which has carefully calibrated restrictions that allow most alcohol-related activities to carry on as usual, but places restrictions at those times when they are most likely to cause disamenities to others and in areas where there are law and order concerns. This proposed regime will set new norms of individual behavior with respect to the purchase of takeaway liquor and consumption of liquor in public places in order to reduce the disamenities and risks to public order inflicted on the wider community. Madam, to conclude, Singapore is a compact and densely populated city with mixed land use and development and residential and commercial areas that flow into each other and are in close proximity. Residents in many areas want a more peaceful and orderly living environment, especially at night and even on weekends when they and their families want to rest. In particular, the adverse effects of public drunkenness and the associated disorder and disamenities are keenly felt by residents in many quarters. The proposed liquor control, supply and consumption bill will help mitigate the risks to public order and reduce disamenities associated with public drunkenness. It will bring much-needed respite to many residents and create a safer neighborhood for all.